It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting at Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. One of my favorite features about Joe's Karting is in full effect right now, and that is the heaters. It's an indoor karting facility. They keep the temperature at a more reasonable temperature because right now it's kind of blistery and cold outside, so you could still go down to Joe's Karting. You could still do that fast-paced, white-knuckle racing that you've always enjoyed all summer long, all year long, and now you get to do it in the warmth of the indoor closed building at Joe's Karting. joeskarting.com, karting with a K, for directions, hours, pricing, all the fun stuff. All right, we got a big show lined up for you today. Joining Dirk and I in the studio is going to be the co-owner for I-80 Speedway and Kosiski Auto Parts, Steve Kosiski. We don't have him in the studio enough, so we wanted to bring him in to talk about track prep. We'll talk to him in turns 1 and 2, and then in turns 3 and 4, it's going to be the Kosiski Auto Parts Legends of the Dirt Series. As Danny Lasoski joins us, we talked to him back in September as he was about to be crowned the NSL inaugural champion. And we talked to him about his career and all the great stuff that we talk about during the Legends of the Dirt Series. You can catch that in turns 3 and 4. But without further ado, let's get the man, the myth, the legend, the guy that we don't have in the studio enough. I talk to your brother all the time, Steve. I just don't get to have you in the studio. Steve Kosiski joining us. How are you, sir?
Great, and always remember, Joe is the politician, the racing promoter, so he's the right guy to have in the studio quite often.
I'm glad you said that, because I really do enjoy watching your brother and you interact differently. I honestly, if somebody hadn't have told me, I'd have never guessed that you two were brothers. Because Joe is just so, he's boisterous, he's politician-like, he's shaking babies and kissing hands and all that fun stuff, and you're very, very you're very precise with what you say. And there's nothing wrong with either the way you guys do it. It's just, how the hell are you brothers?
Well, I guess it's a little more maybe black and white, or I often say what's on my mind.
Yeah.
Not always mean it. Sometimes it comes across wrong, or many times it comes across wrong. And Joe and I, fortunately, we're not yes men to each other. And I don't mean that in a bad way. But, just because he said it or just because I say it, we don't agree upon it. Mm-hmm. And that's a good thing, because in business and many things we do, we both strive for a positive, successful thing, and we look at it differently.
Well, and that success might be in between.
Correct, yeah.
It's somewhere in between the middle there where you guys are talking about, I want it this way, well, I want it that way, well, the middle ground maybe. And obviously it's working. You guys have a successful auto parts store with Kosiski Auto Parts in Omaha, and you have the store in Sioux City, and then the Speedway and the multiple ventures that you guys have together. I got to commend you. I tell you, I could not spend as much time around my family as you spend around yours and still want to get up the next day and do it again.
Well, working for success is, it is a fun thing. And it's better than sitting at home, because we'll all take vacations, and it's great to take some vacations and get away, but it's good to come back and go to work and see things happen.
And that's why he enjoys that 90-mile drive to Sioux City every now and then.
102.
Got to write that mileage off. I know what that's for.
Not that anybody's counting. We're talking with Steve Kosiski. And Steve, the main reason why I wanted to have you come in today was because I really did learn a lot listening over the radio and kind of paying attention to the way that everybody runs the things out of I-80 Speedway, that track prep is probably one of the most important things to a track. And there's a lot of other factors that go into it. I'm not trying to degrade anybody else's job or anybody else's responsibility. But when it comes to putting on an entertaining show that the drivers can do, your job as a track prep head crewman is probably the most crucial, because you can make a night or you can break it by a simple decision.
And yes, I've done both those.
Well, I wasn't going to say that. Yes. I disagree with that statement.
It kind of got handed to me about 3 years ago when Doug Lisowski, who's been around the racing for a lot, and Doug done very well on his racetracks, just I think was getting old enough, it was hard for him to keep handling it anymore. And Doug was trying to explain things, but Doug was not a guy who could explain what and why. It was just happening. And today, now I know what he was trying to say, but unfortunately I had to have flaws in between them to realize that's what he was saying, but he didn't know how to say it.
With being such a technical driver, as I've been told you were, that you were kind of the engineer kind of a driver, that you were very technical about the way your cars were set up. Did that help you with understanding how to prep the track when you were handed the reins?
Well, first off, you always helping prepare the track was failures, and I hated to see the failures for the racers because I hated the bad racetrack.
Yeah.
And when I see it for others, I don't have to hear it from anybody. The track was bad because I already felt it. Because, I can see it in the track, I can see it in the racers, and I know. And Joe and I, we've talked a lot, and he'll give me some different things he may be seeing or stuff I've done so we can both discuss and talk because we're all after the same thing, great racing.
Well, human nature, every once in a while you're going to miss.
Correct.
That's just life. Or, it's like when we were talking to Joe in here about rainouts. They're saying a 200% chance of rain from 3 to 5 today at the racetrack. So you call the race and it don't rain.
Charlotte Motor Speedway, Joe and I went to the World Finals, and at $53 a head, I'm thinking they were about 6,000 people short because it was supposed to rain Saturday night, downpour rains. And, of course, they canceled, and it didn't rain. So multiply that number on how much money was not there the next day because people had plane trips and scheduled their time to go home to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. But, you'd really look like a fool if you said the show's on and it did rain, and everybody'd say, well, the weatherman said it was going to rain. What are you, stupid?
Yeah.
Come
out, we'll find out what their intelligence really are if they want to stand by me the whole time, not just once in a while or behind the internet phone.
Well, and I remember the time several years ago for the Alphabet Soup Race, Memorial Day weekend, 2004 or 5.
Yeah, we first started, yes.
When it rained, and then you guys worked the track until about 11 o'clock or 11:30, and threw some guys out there, and the track was so fast nobody wanted to race.
Correct. Yeah.
That was insane. They worked hard, and 4 hours getting that track back in because we had a downpour right at race time.
Yeah.
Today, would you have called that race? Or would you
yes,
think
I've learned more about that. So has Joe. At that time, we weren't really in control of the things. And not saying if we were in control at that time, we would have made a different decision. But now we've learned you get 4 to 5 minutes worth of rain, it's an hour to hour and a half at a minimum of track prep. Doesn't make sense, but that humidity just pulls it back out, and your track, if it's got any kind of seal on it from cars running around it, it's going to shed and sit there for a long time.
Talk to me about the prep way before race day. That if you're going out there, so race just ended on Friday night. We're done with Friday night racing, weekly racing action. Our next race isn't for a week. When do you start thinking about going back out and start working on the track again?
Well, we made the mistake about a year and a half, or 2 years ago, whatever, and we said, after they're done racing, let's dig the track up so it can set during the week, and then we can, because as the week sits, the track's harder to grade. It becomes like a rock. The sun just starts baking on it, makes it terrible. So we started doing that. We had the worst tracks because it got open and the rain would hit, or something else would happen, and it would dry it up differently, and it just made for a bad track. Now we leave the track seal up, and we're watching the weather. If it's going to be dry all week long, Thursday we'll grade it, and we'll start watering it Thursday night. Unless it's so dry for the last 3 or 4 weeks, well, then we'll take and probably do it Wednesday and start watering it Wednesday, water it Thursday, and then go on heavy on Friday.
It really is a fine art to understand when to lay the water, how much water to lay, when to let it rest, when to grade, all the different factors that go into it. It's not as easy as let's just throw some water on it, we'll dig it up, we'll clean it up, then we'll pack it down and we'll go racing. It really has. My eyes were opened up a lot this year too. There's a lot more that goes into this than just the day before or the day of track prep.
Correct, and we talk about which day is it. When I say that, it's not Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or it's not race day. It's which day is it? Is it springtime? Is it the heat of the summer? Did it rain this week? What classes of cars do we have? The class of cars.
That's another one that I had a conversation with Joe about that, and I said, why the heck do you run sport compacts after, I think it was after late models or after maybe it was A-mods? Because I tell you, as a guy watching the race, and I'm sitting up there trying to call the race, when you're out there watching an A-mod go down the track and, that they've got those fast speeds, and then you watch the sport compacts go out there, it's such a contrast that it's hard to watch. And Joe said, because they're little bitty tires, cut the track back up. And it was like a light turned on in my head, and I went, well, duh, but, that makes sense, because then you guys are able to prep the track through the drivers for the features.
Yes, Joe works hard, he and Lisa both, trying to split up the tire sizes of the big tire to the narrow tire, back and forth to break it up, to pack it in, to break it up, pack it in. And then if I see something on the track where I say, Joe, I need some help, I have a little too wet, or, I got to watch what I'm going to have and how many hot laps. I might tell Larry White and Flagon, cut it down to 1 lap or 2 laps. You're middle of the season. Everybody doesn't need a ton of laps.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's too wet, then the big boys don't want to think they have to go out there and run around the track. So, you're battling so many variables. Joe works hard at trying to make sure the right tires are on the track to kind of bring things around if we can get it right.
You guys go from all over the spectrum for size of races. You get your NASCAR weekly racing action on up to you're now going to have 2 Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series races. And you've got guys like Jimmy Owens and Scott Bloomquist on over to the 360 or to the sprint cars with Sammy Swindell and Steve Kinzer, who have all complimented you and said, we love coming to this track because we know the kind of track we're going to get. That's got to be the ultimate payoff for you.
Well, that's a yes and no thing. Because none of the racers are all going to be happy. Because if they had a bad night or it wasn't the way they wanted to go, you learn that I just stay away from them because I appreciate if they have a good compliment about it. Many of them do. If they have a bad night, oh well. If it's a good race, I don't need anyone to tell me because I've seen the fans cheering.
Yeah.
And that's our goal because, yeah, I like to dry slick track, but our race cars and our tires today create a racetrack so different. Even though I haven't raced for a lot of years, I'm still setting up a racetrack for the race cars. It's the opposite of what I used to do. And yeah, I work hard at watching what's happening because I have to have a track wetter because these tires today will clean the track off and it rubbers down. It's not a good race.
Yeah.
And the fans don't want to see that.
How different is a track setup when you're talking about a Lucas Oil Late Model Series versus a NSL or a World of Outlaws?
Well, I can't sheep's foot it as hard for the World of Outlaws. Well, World of Outlaws or NSL, those guys are going to take the track a lot farther, but you're going to get more Lucas Oil cars. So that balance is kind of pretty close. Sprint cars are the hardest on the racetrack, period.
Really?
But we get 28, 32 sprint cars compared to getting 35, 40 in the Silver Dollar night. We get 60 late models. So you really have to watch. Joe, now that's back to where Joe and I work together. What day is it? Mm-hmm. The fans say, why do we start so late at the Silver Dollar? Well, I hope you enjoy the race because we can start at 7. And when it rubbers down about 10:30 and they're all single file and you're saying, well, that was just another race.
Yeah.
No, they're going when Jimmy Owens was trying to pass Bloomquist this year when, the guys have been side by side for the finishes and the sprint car races, everything. You got to watch your time of day you're also starting. So track prep's one thing. Joe's also looking at a time frame too because we'll talk about that. If I can get the track wet enough, if I get it too wet, then it's a big old curb and it isn't that good a race in that way either. So there's variables involved. He and I are trying to talk back and forth and work with.
Well, you don't want the sun drying the track out for that earlier start. And I just know from having just driven around the track, it hasn't been in a race yet, but also going into turn 3, if that sun's right in your eyes, isn't a whole lot of fun either.
No, that's very unsafe, yes.
Oh, I just watched. I was telling you off the air, I was watching a bunch of clips of your dad and doing interviews and you racing and your brother racing. I watched one where they had a camera mounted to his frame at Belleville. And he took the green flag coming out of turn 3, and I couldn't see a thing. Now, it's a camera. It's not as clear as your eye, but that sun was shining right on that camera, and I thought, oh my God, how does he know what to do? I mean, you can't see anything in front. You're blinded for a few seconds, and that few seconds is an eternity.
That's when you put your hands together and you look up as you're going through the corner and hope when you come out of it, everything's still looking good because it really isn't a lot different view. You're kind of looking off to the left or right, but if you have dust, it's I've had a dusty track a night or two, and I want to water it, but I don't like to see it for the racers.
It's insane when it's dusty. I mean, you'll see them. They'll put a bumper on somebody, and you'll just see them tap them all the way around the corner so they know where they're turning.
Yeah. All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 2. We'll continue our conversation with Steve Kosiski, co-owner of I-80 Speedway and Kosiski Auto Parts. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
This is Andrew from Kosiski Auto Parts. Kosiski Auto Parts is an insurance-quality used parts supplier that can match your foreign or domestic car or truck needs. If you have a damaged or broke-down car or truck, we guarantee a clean and quality part in next-day fashion. Kosiski Auto Parts, your neighborhood premium recycled parts supplier. Call any Kosiski Auto Parts salesman today by dialing 402-731-4592 or visit us at 5040 I Street in Omaha. Kosiski Auto Parts, our quality used parts will match your car or truck's needs.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. We are rolling into turn number 2, high, wide, and handsome. Dirk Houston, Dan Taylor joining you here on the front stretch. In studio with us now, the co-owner for I-80 Speedway and co-owner for Kosiski Auto Parts, Steve Kosiski, joining us to talk about track prep and all sorts of fun stuff. Steve, as I was watching you and your crew work on the track for the World of Outlaw Nationals this year, I kind of got to wondering if you can feel the pressure of the drivers watching every move you make to see what you're going to do to that track, because that directly affects what they're going to be able to do later that night during the races.
Correct. They're trying to see what I'm doing on the track, but I want, no matter what, I want good for all of us in the racetrack. Mm-hmm. Only thing I ask is you get out of my way, because they want to walk right in front of the water truck as it's going around. And that's the risky part. People think you're just going to turn. I'm carrying a 55,000-pound fully loaded truck and trying to go when it gets muddy. I got to keep it up to 30 mile an hour. That doesn't sound fast, but we're not stopping.
Was it the beginning of this year I almost became a bug on your windshield?
You might have. I had one almost at the end of the year, too. A very good customer of ours walked right in front and had it. He was looking at the mud as he was walking, and I'm lucky the truck turned uphill, because he would have been one, too. And I tell people, we shut them off going across the track, and the racers and the fans hate it. But it's kind of like a railroad crossing. Why do they put the crossbars down? And then people still try to go around the crossbars, and what happens? They get hit.
Yeah.
And we can't stop everybody when we're packing a track or prepping a track. We've got to get our job done, so we have to put on a little stall time, and we're going to do that.
How particular are you about somebody messing with your track? Like, for instance, I was at the championship Sunday. It was a real question if we were going to race that night. We tried our best to get the races. I should say we. I was up there calling the races. You guys did your best to get the races in. And then as soon as the rain came, I could hear you on the radio saying, everybody mobilize right now. We got to get these haulers out of here before they start to damage, before they get stuck in the pits. And then I was kind of thinking, is he also worried about, as that exit on the turn 3, is there any worry that they're going to tear up the track and irreparably damage it?
No, it just becomes a lot of work, and the fire safety guys do a tremendous job, and they're standing out there in the rain while everybody else is sitting in their truck, pull me out, or blocking each other in, because once they get up the hill, they think, oh, heck, I'm out. And they have no respect for anybody else behind them.
Mm-hmm. Well,
give it the gas and pull out of the way and get your people picked up, clear up the hill somewhere. Get in the vehicle. You know the rain's coming. Where's the respect at for people? Because
just like you said, they'd pull up off that hill, and then they get about 30 feet outside the gate, and they just stop. And then everyone else has to stop behind them, and you kill. And I heard that over the radio too. Like, what is he doing?
We're in a hurry. We're in a crunch time, and then it's all about me.
Yeah,
that's what it becomes.
I've been in that directing traffic before. When you're soaking wet, when it's raining. And you just get some guys, your weekly racers are being there, and they know you're trying to work for them. But there was an Alphabet Soup race one time, and Alan Vaughn about run me over.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't going to wait because I wasn't letting him in. We were trying to get the big haulers out first, but he didn't care. He's getting out now.
Yeah. We have that. Yeah, so we have to deal with it, and sometimes it happens. They get damaged or vehicles, whatever. It's I can't help that.
Well, like I say,
I don't want to see it happen to anybody.
The weekly racers understand. They realize, hey, this is my track. They're trying to help me, so they'll listen to you.
Yeah.
It's just when you've got some out of towners or a first time guy or something, they just don't want to listen to it.
Yeah.
While we got a little bit of time left, I think we've covered a lot with the track prep and. I mean, just my world of understanding of how much work goes into that. I hats off to you for what you do. I honestly, I've only worked at 2 tracks in my career, but I think you've got one of the best in the area. And it really impresses me that these big guys on the Lucas Oil Late Model Series, the World of Outlaws, the NSL, will say that this is one of the top tracks in the nation. And it's kind of cool to think it's only 20 minutes down the road from where I sit, you know?
Well, I got this handed to me, and like I said, I made a lot of mistakes, and I did not realize track prep was what it was. And I tell people a lot of times, I have a guy I call Mike Rusko, Magic Mike, and he's not from the movie theater, just so you know. But Mike has been on the crew and just been working with us for years, and it's just been awesome to have him because he understands dirt compaction, everything else. We've made mistakes together, And we've kind of cleaned up a lot of things together because, he wants to think hard. He was from the concrete world of streets and interstates, everything else, and he'll harden the track up really hard. And now he knows, back off and when our times are. And I still ask him questions today. I don't have it all perfect and down by no means. So
well, you're getting pretty close to it.
We have a good guy with us, and it's great to have a track like we have. Our track does take more to prepare because it is bigger and it's wider than most any track in the country.
Yeah,
I shouldn't say bigger. There's tracks bigger in Knoxville, and a few of them are bigger, but our track's very wide, so it takes a lot more to get that whole track prepped.
It takes a lot of a lot of water to lay it down, a lot of laps to get it. It's because I was talking to Roger Hayden about it during the couple of times I made it out to his track. During intermission, he was able to go out, tear up the track, and repack it. But he's got that convenience because he's got a shorter track.
Much smaller,
it's a bowl rink, so he's got it takes. What takes him 20 minutes during intermission to do would take you guys probably 45 minutes to an hour if you were to do something like that.
Yeah, more than that, yes.
And I'm just amazed. You guys have come so far. Like you said, you've just been doing this a few years, but your track prep for the third day now on like the Silver Dollars is fantastic. The first couple of years I thought it dry slicked out a little bit and took a little rubber, so the racing wasn't quite as good. But obviously last year's race was fantastic, and the race 2 years ago when Ryan Gustin came from the back to the front in 50 laps.
Yep.
I mean, it was an awesome track that night. So you guys, hats off to you guys. I've been around the racing game a long time, and you guys' track prep is fantastic for a multi-day show.
Thank you.
I want to talk a little bit about the relationship as you, as a retired successful driver, to Brian, because I've been able to draw a lot of similarities to what I think Ralph Earnhardt, Dale Earnhardt, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. have gone through in their careers.
What's that got to do with track prep?
We're transitioning now. I've got him in the studio finally. I'm gonna get to all my questions. We're 20 minutes into this thing. I got another 20 questions to go. But I've been really interested watching you and Joe and how you guys have to react with your sons as racers, and a couple of you had daughters that have raced in the past, and it's been interesting to me because I think that you guys, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that you guys have to hold back a little bit with helping your sons because there's a chance you're going to get pegged with favoritism from other drivers. Is that true?
Well, that's up to them if they choose that, They can look at a favoritism because of the track, or they can say, why isn't his dad over helping him? Where's his fatherly deal at? So they can look at whatever, and it's back to some days I really don't care what they think. Did I say that nicely?
Well,
you said that fine.
You can't make everybody happy.
I know, and I'm not going to. And I've got to, it's my time with my sons, my family. I spend a lot of money toward the racing for us to go as a family, and that's where our money goes to. People have always said for years, you guys have all this and that. No, we've given everything we had to racing.
Yeah.
We don't go to do all the other things in life that many people are doing all week long. We're doing whatever it takes for racing, and that's what we do, and that's our hobby. It's our lake, that's our boat, that's our bar we go to, that's our whatever.
Your trip to Disneyland.
Thank you, yes, whatever. Yeah. That's what we do is racing, and that's, we've been fortunate there.
And I've watched you work with Brian, and that's not to what I just asked you. It's not to say I haven't seen you work with him. I think you've worked very well with him, and in the little bit I've been able to see in the last year being there, have you taken some of the lessons that the way your dad interacted with you? Last time we had you in here was a couple of years ago, and you talked about, I said, do you ever have to go to your dad and ask him like advice when you were racing? And you said no, because he's the first one in the window telling me when I did it wrong.
Yeah.
Are you that way with Brian, or are you a little bit different because you said, well, maybe I'd have preferred if my dad would have done it this way?
Well, no, I am after Brian some, but I try to stand back because I know I'm going to come across wrong. Mm-hmm. The first night he won one of his races, I come down and he said, you almost lost that race. And that probably isn't the best thing a father should say to the son. But he had lost his momentum and his focus, and then he gathered it back up and passed the guy back on the last lap to win the race, and that was good. But, there's times I do go in there and I try to tell him beforehand if I can see what's happening. And you forget they're going to make some mistakes, because when I was out there, the same thing. You made some mistakes, and it's a different view in the driver's seat than it is standing outside on the deck watching the races.
Are you still able to go to a dirt track and enjoy it like the fan and the fanatic that you've been all of your life for this sport? Or has being a track owner and a promoter, does that kind of weigh on you a little bit to where you don't get to enjoy, just sit there and watch a race?
At our track, it's hard just to sit there. I try to go to the back straightaway, or I'll sneak in and go up in the front to try to watch some races here and there at our track, but I go to other tracks. I enjoy it. I'm a race fan.
Yeah.
I've been to the races many places. Like I say, we went to Charlotte, went to Talladega. Joe and I went to the Talladega short track both nights, and I love it. So it's not a problem at all.
You're not the owner of I-80 Speedway. You can still be Steve Kosiski. You can still be the kind of the laid back guy. You don't have to be uptight.
Sure,
because
I hope so.
I have different hats. I tell people, they said, no, you got to have this hat. I said, no. I'm Steve Kosiski because I might be a owner operator of the track, and I always tell them Joe's the promoter. But I can go there and take care of the business as I need to, but I can enjoy races and go down and socialize with some of the people or whatever. That's never a problem.
Take I-80 out of it. What's one of your favorite tracks to go to?
Oh boy.
It could be for any reason. It could be that you love that the racing there is good. It could be the atmosphere, the fans. I
enjoy the late model nationals at Knoxville.
Yeah. I got to see about 20 minutes of that this year.
I went to Norfolk a couple times. Jerry Pospisil and his crew up there really put on a good track for a brand new track. I went there the first night. They made some mistakes. Welcome to all of our worlds. Making mistakes. But we went there for the SLMR race. Awesome show. It's a narrower track, and when they popped off at turn 2, 4 wide, I said, and Brian was in the middle of this, I said, I can see 4 cars being totaled out here. But no, it was a good job. There's several good tracks. The guys who are working hard, and those guys worked very hard on having a great show that night. Guys who are working hard, it's great. I see some other tracks I go to, and I say, change your grading, change your banking, and it's not that I'm the professional. I'm racing at the view. We need to do things to keep the racer from destroying his race car.
Yeah.
And I see it happen at a few of the tracks around here, and change your track a little bit, guys. No matter what, my view is it's for the racers, so they're not destroying the race car, because I seen them happen both east and west of us, and I go, why, people? So
you got to preserve the cars nowadays, because it's so expensive to be a part of this series, and it always has been expensive to be a part of a dirt racing, to be a driver in it. That is it harder today? Is it more expensive today?
Oh, by far.
Is it?
Yeah.
I've kind of heard it both ways. So
race cars are getting out of control, like the motors were for years. The race cars are getting out of control now.
Well, it's just that everybody invents a new wheel the next 6 months, and the guy that's on the edge of being good is the guy that it really costs a ton of money, because he's always chasing and he is always spending, and he's never quite getting down what he just put in the car yet. He hasn't made that work when he's changing the car to try something else. It's really expensive for them.
Yes, it is.
We've talked about Andrew Kosiski, Joe's son, racing, and Brian, your son, racing. Again, back to when we interviewed you the first time in here a couple of years ago. Andrew told a story about going to the track, and he went to Park Jefferson, and him and Brian sat there in the stands and bet on which dad was going to win the race, and they had bragging rights for that week. Do you and Joe kind of start to do that yourselves with, my son did better this week, and a little bit of bragging, kind of teasing on each other at all like that?
No, we actually compliment each other on the stuff. We try to help the boys if we can, because it's about them now. It's not about us racing, and the challenges Joe and I had in racing wasn't each other. It was the crews. It was the fans. It wasn't us. We work together every day.
Every once in a while,
you're going to have some little things here and there happen on
and
the track.
That happens with every family.
When you're racing at the level we raced at, and all the different races we raced together at, things are going to happen once in a while. And it got built more by the fans and the crews than by us.
I remember one in particular at Sunset. It was a tour race. And you ran Joe down in about the last 5 laps of the race from probably close to a straightaway behind. You just were hooked up in the corner, and he was struggling a little bit. It was a 100-lapper. You remember that race?
No, I get asked about these things. I remember some things, but I don't remember all this stuff.
One like that, I think you would remember, because Scott Koroleski was just hilarious on the radio, because he was counting the car lengths down as you were closing on Joe, and he's 5 car lengths back, and then he got to screaming, "He's right behind you!"
You said that you don't remember all these races. I'm glad you actually said that, because I am honestly amazed with doing this Legends of the Dirt series that Kosiski has afforded us to do, the Kosiski Auto Parts has let us do for the last couple of years. The memory on you drivers is insane. So it's good to finally hear somebody say, I don't remember every race.
No, I have Larry Moore. I just met him a couple weeks ago again out at Indianapolis, and I've raced against Larry Moore for years, and met him over at the Hall of Fame when Dad was inducted in 2014. We were over there talking. He walked up and says, Kosiski. He said, "Oh, man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to spin you out." I said, "What are you talking about?" He's remembering a race from 1992, and I did not remember it. Finally, one of the guys pulled this thing up on the video and had to show me on the phone on YouTube because, of course, I'm kind of computer illiterate on some areas. But, he's showing me this race, and, okay, it was a heat race deal, and, yeah, he spun me out. But his car was, he told me the story about it, was doing this on alcohol, everything else. I said, okay, Larry, let it go because I don't remember it. It's not a problem.
Did you let him buy you a drink to make up for it later?
No, I bought him one. I enjoy seeing Larry Moore. He's one of the greatest racers ever out there.
He was on the show a couple of weeks ago for Legends. He helped us kick it off, and that was an entertaining conversation.
Oh, yeah. Great interview.
I got about halfway through his book, and I couldn't believe the stories out of that guy.
Oh, yes.
The stories were just amazing. Steve Kosiski, we've taken way too much of your time. We appreciate it, bud.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming back. We'll have you back on very soon, okay?
No problem.
We'll be back here on the Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100-plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the Front Stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the Front Stretch.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch, heading into turn number 3, and as a part of the Legends of the Dirt series brought to you by Kosiski Auto Parts, we're talking to the driver of the number 2 Muddy.com National Sprint League 410, Danny Lasoski. How you doing today, sir?
Great, sir. Thank you very much for having us on.
Well, it's good to have you back. We've had you on the show once before, and you were definitely a delight, so we thought, well, I think... forget about the wins. Forget about that. Let's just throw him on the Legends for the personality.
Well, it's never dull. Never dull.
Not the fact that he came in town and took home $30,000+ after he talked to us. So, little bonus.
That worked out pretty good.
We'll talk briefly about the stats, but we want to talk more about your career as a whole. 4-time Knoxville Nationals Champion, 9-time Knoxville Raceway Points Champion. You won the 360 Knoxville Nationals. You've got 87 World of Outlaw A main event wins, including 121 preliminary events. I mean, just the wins just stack up. When you walk away from your career as a whole, can you get an idea of what people will say about you?
Well, I got to be honest with you. When that day comes, and I hope it's not real soon because I really enjoy what I do right now, what's really important to me is 2 things. First and foremost, that whether you love me or hate me, I want all the fans to respect me because this sport is near and dear to my heart, and I put my heart and soul into this. And you're going to have fans that like you and fans that hate you, but I want to be respected by the fans and more so respected by everybody out in the pit area because just like you said, the bottom line is I've done it my way, and I'm hard-headed, but I want to win so bad that that's the way we are.
You paired up with Tony Stewart for several years for a successful run in the World of Outlaws, and I'm a big Tony Stewart fan, and that I do it my way. Is that kind of what made you two mesh so well together for a while?
It really was because I will. Pretty much hard-nosed, and so is he, as everyone knows. He does it his way, and we got along perfectly that way. And then when he decided to go to Indianapolis and do little things a little differently, I totally understand, and we're good friends today.
And I think what you said earlier, that will to win. You want to win really bad, and so did Tony, and that's why you also worked good together.
Correct. That's sometimes I get the bad rap at coming to the racetrack, and hey, well, Danny, I said hello to you, and you didn't acknowledge me. And I said, well, I apologize because when the driver's meeting over, I don't acknowledge anybody. I mean, we're here for one thing, and that's to get the job done. And we run second. It's, there's sometimes you're not going to win them all, but we sure come here to win.
Yeah, and also I think celebrities get a bad rap sometimes because there's times when, there's a lot going on at a racetrack. There's engines being fired. There's cars being moved around that you don't hear somebody say hi.
And that is correct. And I get a bad rep, and I hate like I'm taking up for myself, but I love the fans and love the kids, and I love after the race is over, when the checker flag falls, the biggest thing for a driver to understand is when that checker flag falls, it's over. There's not one thing we can do about it. There's no sense pouting, throwing a fit, throwing your helmet. We can't change it. It's over. So come out, thank the good Lord that you had a decent night, didn't get hurt, and you have the great fans to support you.
That's experience talking is what that is.
Moving on.
All right, let's talk about the start of your career. We talked to you back in July, but let's go over a little bit more. Your father, uncle, and Tom, and your uncle Tom, were already into racing and a big part of giving you that bug.
They sure did. They paved the way. My dad, hard-nosed. He raced. My Uncle Tom raced a bunch. My dad, and I thank him today, I was kind of like mean. I thought he was mean to me back in the day because his philosophy was, look, you want to race, you're going to show me a race. I am not going to put 5 cents into your car. If you want to race, you show me you'll work for it. And if you want to work from 6 a.m., round the clock to 6 a.m., I'm going to be right here beside you working with you. If you say you want to work from 6 a.m. and all of a sudden it rolls around at 7 o'clock at night and you think you want to go chase women or drink beer, I'm out. I'm going in the house, so you're on your own. And I thought, God, that's kind of mean back in the day, but I totally see why he did it because he instilled that fire to win. And if you want to win, you're going to take, no matter how many hours you got to work, you're going to do that.
I talked to your nephew, Brian Brown, last night in the pits and said, if you could give me one thought about Danny Lisowski, and, well, I mean, the words that came out of his mouth aren't friendly for radio. No, I'm just kidding. He said determination. That fire to drive, to win, is what really makes him who he is. And is that your dad coming through in that?
Yeah, because he not only did install it in me and Brian as well, because when back in the day I gave Brian his start. I got him a car with my dad as crew chief, and my dad did the same to him. You know, the race is not over, and be stronger the last 5 laps than you were the first 5 laps. I mean, don't fall out of the seat. Do whatever it takes. Get your body in shape. I'm 56 years old, and I feel like I'm 21. But I work hard at it.
Yeah, it looks like I'm not going to pick a fight with you at a bar any kind of night. I mean,
I'm a nice guy. You know,
well, it's the nice, quiet ones you got to watch out for. And it's quite honestly them broad shoulders that I even under a hoodie that you got on right now, I'm not messing with that at all. And talk about that, working with Brian a little bit to get him to the level he's at right now. Did you kind of take that hardball line with that your dad did, or did you maybe go just a little bit softer?
I didn't have to be soft because my dad took over. Mm-hmm. The good part about it was from the time Brian was old enough to know what racing was, he's been attached to my hip. I couldn't shake him. Man, when school was over, all summer long, he went every single place. He doesn't go with his mom and dad. He went with me. And we traveled all over the country. And back in the day, like that, the kids couldn't get in the pit area, and he would stand there and you would see him. He would yell and do everything. And if we were going to win the race, he'd either, like at Sioux Falls, South Dakota, he would know, and he would tell me. He'd say, Uncle Danny, when it was 2 laps to go, you were leading. I'd already take off on the front straightaway. He'd go all the way around to the back gate to get through, so he could get to victory lane when I got there. And the guys at the gate knew him. As soon as the cars were stopped, they'd let him through. So when he got older, and he still had to fire, and he didn't have any money. He was a used car salesman, so that's why he gets that gift of gab. You got that deal. But he kept hinting around that he wanted to race, and I finally just asked him, I said, do you want to try this? He goes, I really want to try this. I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put you a race team together, and your grandpa can run it. You talk him into teaching you. And I'm not going to talk him into it. You talk him into it. And I said, I'll give you the guys everything you need to do, but you got to work. If you don't work on this thing, I kind of did the same thing with my dad. If you don't work on it, I'm done. Parking it.
Yeah.
And that's how he started. And my dad worked with him for 3 years. They won the WOW track championship. They went to Knoxville, won the 360 track championship. So he got rolling pretty good at a young age. And
that will to win and that determination, the fire to win, as you say, you instilled that in, and that kind of came to a head, if I remember right, one time over at Knoxville. You guys both wanted to win really bad, and I think there was one transfer spot to move up into the A main, and respecting one another's ability to want to win, and you wanted it as bad as he did.
Well, absolutely, and that's what people blow it so far out of content, and it's. it's right now it's kind of funny. But
looking back, right? You looking back, you have to say you got to say, that kid really was a racer that night.
Absolutely. You
wouldn't have wanted it any other way.
I wouldn't have wanted it, and I told him that. We laugh and joke about it now because we raced that hard, and at the end of the day, that brought the 3 hard heads together, me, my dad, and Brown. And I'm not one guy to mess with. I mean, when you come into the pit area, you're looking for 2 things: if you give a tail whipping or take one. And when you come to my pit area, that's what's going to happen. And just lo and behold, that was my dad that night. Didn't turn into a good deal.
Really did make it a whole family thing that night. Huh?
It really did. But the good part is, the guy that started it all is the one that taught us how to be that way, and the very next morning it's over. Son, we're done. We don't need to talk about it. So there's nothing to talk about. It's that desire, that gut-wrenching desire to win.
Like you said, when that final checkered flag falls, there's nothing you can do about it. It's history. Moving on.
And I tell everyone, guys got to understand, when you slide that helmet over your head and you buckle that strap, it's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde for us. That's how it is.
You got to be focused when you're in that car at that speed.
Mm-hmm. Let's take you back to the beginning of your career, and you talked about you had a '69 Camaro. This thing was your baby. I mean,
love to have
this
that
thing. This thing would be anybody's baby. You sold it to buy your first race car, and looking back on it, kind of seems like it was a good decision. But it had to be hard to get rid of something that was such a piece of Americana.
Guys, you have no idea. '69 Z28, 4-speed, silver with black stripes. A complete woman magnet. I mean, I thought I was just, I'd roll into high school and them girls, I mean, I thought I was Casanova, but they just liked my car.
I want to let you know a little secret. A nice Ford Ranger is a good woman magnet.
Is that where?
Hell, it beats the Pinto you used to have.
Get yourself some 4-wheel drive. Oh, baby.
It really did, and it's just like I told you, my dad made it very clear. If you want to race, you're going to prove it to me. And I'll give you a couple examples. He wasn't going to spend 50 cents of his money. He was going to make sure that I wanted to do it. I sold my Camaro. I sold everything that I had to buy it. The very first car that I bought had to be purchased. It was in the back of a guy's garage that had corn stalks growing up through the frame. And I had to chaw that out to get it out. And we got it. My dad and I went completely through it. 100%, and that's how I started.
You had to have treated that thing like gold. I mean, it was just that car was now your baby. That was
my girlfriend.
That was your world.
That was it was my world. Everything. It was just everything. And again, this sounds brutal, and today I'm so glad he did it. My dad told me, he said, "Look, son, you're gonna learn like I did." I said, "What do you mean?" We're not gonna put power steering in your car. I said, "What?" I had power steering unit that I bought. He wouldn't hook it up. He filled it up, run a bypass hose from the inlet to the outlet, and I drove my first year with this type power steering gear, not a pump.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to know what it's like, go down the road, shut your car off, and drive it. That's what I drove my first year. He wanted to see how tough I was and how bad I wanted to do it.
That's why Dan's not going to mess with you.
that is fact.
I drove my first year like that.
Yeah. That's a good workout. I've done that back on the farm when I've had the old trucks.
Man, people they don't understand what you're getting at. But again, we weren't going the speeds where we're going today. But my God, when you get done, it feels like somebody whipped my tail.
Brad Deary put you in your first ride back in 1984, but you said it was his girlfriend that might have gotten the deal done.
Mr. Deary, he gets all the credit, but Carolyn, his girlfriend at the time, was the one that sealed the deal for me, because I kept asking and begging and asking, and he'd say, "Oh, maybe one of these days, maybe one of these days." And then when he would turn his back, I'd go put my arm around her and try to schmooze it, and she's really the one that got me the deal.
Went through the girlfriend. Not a bad tactic. That got it done.
My Casanova factor again.
You went through the girlfriend the right way, not the ungentlemanly.
He was showing pictures of the Camaro.
Yeah.
Well, talk about the early years. You spent some time here at I-80 Speedway when they first built the place, and your wrench guy Forbrook, he owned this place back in the first few years down here.
Yep, he did. He's run well, and ever since Guy and I've got together, we started racing in '89 together, and it's been a brotherly relationship, because what people don't understand about Guy and I, when we first started, everything that we had came out of our pocket. We didn't have sponsors. We raced together. He had the car. I had a buddy of mine named Al Cole that furnished the engines, but that's how we ate. So naturally, if things didn't go well, or I really messed up on the racetrack. He voiced his opinion, and sometimes when I didn't like his opinion, I told him I didn't think too much of his opinion in the most political correct way I can tell you. And sometimes it caused conflict, and between me quitting and him firing me, we stayed best friends through the whole thing. We stayed best friends, and then last October, he calls. Well, we usually talked once every 2 weeks just to go over things, our thoughts. He called last October. He said, "Listen," he said, "I got an opportunity and I want you." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Craig Delansky quit this car," and he said, "I don't want to race unless you drive it." I said, "Are you kidding?" He said, "Nope." He said, "I want to do this." I said, "Deal." So that's how we started. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be in this car.
Even after some of the fights you guys have had, you're able to put that aside and still...
We call it disagreements.
Checkered flag dropped. It's all over.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we race way better together than we do apart, and we both are mature enough. And now we'll call it seasoned.
Okay.
We're both seasoned enough now to understand we win together more than we lose together. So that's for me at this part of my racing career. He had definitely rejuvenated my my desire, because they're running out of my own pocket for the last 5 years was tough on me, because I'm not the guy just to sit at home and wait for the phone to ring. I'm going to give, I'm going out swinging.
With the way your career's gone, have you ever thought about, taking a shot at NASCAR or doing like a Doug Coletta and try and go straight real fast?
Well, fortunately and unfortunately, I was too young when I wanted to go into NASCAR, and then I was too old when it was opportunity, because they wanted to market the young guys. So I was in that gap. Kenny Schrader was in there at the perfect time, and then I wasn't the right age, but I wouldn't change it. I mean, I love this sport. This sport's been fantastic to me, and as long as I got the gut-wrench desire to keep going, I'm going to do it.
That's what I said. Hindsight being 20/20, I think we made a pretty good move.
Oh, thank you very much. And then I have a lot of opportunities that's come my way for sprint car racing. I got the opportunity to run the IROC series, win an IROC race. Not a lot of people can say they've done that. We've been very, very fortunate, very blessed that we can do that.
That was an awesome series. I wish they still had it.
Yeah, it really is, and I'm just very, very happy about that.
We're talking with Danny the Dude Lisowski, driving the number 2 Muddy.com National Sprint League 410. We're going to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 4. We'll wrap up the Legend of the Dirt series for today. This is the Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
We have all been there before. Broken car part in your hand and some snot-nosed punk behind the counter has no idea what he's talking about, but he guarantees that this part will fix your car. You pay an arm and a leg for the replacement, get it home, and sure enough, it doesn't fit your car. Now, learn from your mistake and give an experienced salesperson at Kosiski Auto Parts a call today at 402-731-4592. Kosiski Auto Parts will get you back on the road with your arms and legs still attached.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch, heading into turn number 4, brought to you by Quaker Steak and Lube in Council Bluffs, the official watering hole of the Front Stretch. While we were away at break, Danny Lasoski actually won his 10th Knoxville Championship and won a couple more races. Congratulations, man. You're getting stuff done in the breaks.
Why do you want to rob me? That's what I'm getting.
While we were sitting here, he picked up another track championship. Isn't that amazing?
The toughest thing about doing these kinds of interviews is that, there's not a lot of information out there. And so I'm new to the sport, and so I was going off of some of the Sprint Car Hall of Fame's information when they inducted you in, I believe it was 07, 08? Is when you were inducted?
I don't really know when it was.
But I was going off some old information, and since then you've won another check, so I do apologize for that. But so we're talking with Danny the Dude Lisowski, and Stan, you got something for me?
Talk about that first Knoxville Nationals win.
That was...
was that something or what?
1998. You guys got to understand, this is going to seem kind of quirky, but I can remember driving down the road because you're doing all the traveling by myself. And you think about that day, you're thinking like, oh my God, I really, I want to win that race more than I want anything. I mean, I want that race. what would I say in Victory Lane if I won? And, man, I had the very best speech. You would have thought Richard Petty or Dale Earnhardt was making this speech. And we won that race. We led that race. Sammy Swindell got back by us. Coming for the white, he missed the bottom. We passed and won the race. You know, lo and behold, when I got Victory Lane, I forgot everything I was going to say. I mean to tell you, but there's not a time that goes by, not so much every day, but maybe every other week that you think about one of the 4 we won, the certain things that happen. Priceless. It changes your life.
Yeah, but you had to absolutely sink in your seat when he got by you on that white flag lap.
Oh my God, you guys just don't know. You know, you try to be perfect every lap, and he gets by you, and then you get him back.
He didn't sink in his seat. What went by in his mind was, not today,
seat.
bitch.
He stood up in the seat if I know Danny.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, in 1994, you were diagnosed with testicular cancer. That has to be the scariest thing you've ever had told to you.
You know, just to be honest with you fellas, I'm not scared of anything or anybody.
Really?
But that doctor come out to back it up. I mean, I knew something was wrong. I knew something was wrong 6 months before I told anybody. Mm-hmm. And I just hit it. And then finally, the last 2 weeks I raced, I couldn't race with a crotch strap on. It was that swelled up and just miserable. And so I went in and had it tested. And he came back within 15 minutes and said, "We got to operate." I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you've got a tumor down there, and it's got to be coming out. And if it's malignant and gone through your lymph nodes, you got 6 months." I said,
man.
"What? Hold on, back up. 6 months." So it's like someone taking a sledgehammer and hitting you upside the head.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like. And he goes, "Well, we need to do this." I said, "Oh no, I got this was coming up on 4th of July weekend. I got 5 races. I'm racing." No,
you don't understand, Doc. I got a race.
He goes, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "I'm running those races, and then I'll go in." So I ran those races, won 4 out of the 5.
No kidding.
Monday,
winning those, did you almost think in the back of your head, this could be the last time I'm in Victory Lane?
Absolutely.
And so you pushed just that much harder.
Absolutely. And I think we won, not to brag, but I think we'd won the 5 out of the 5, but I blew a tire with 2 to go on the other one leading. So went in, had Nurse Helga taking care of me. You got to understand, this is back in '94, and she has this straight razor. We're going to shave everything. And
I'm getting a heck of a visual
here. I'm just being honest, guys. She was going. I said, "Man, what are you doing?
Get yourself a safety razor, please."
So on this radio, you could probably, this next thing I'm getting ready to say, you could bleep it out, but this is 100% fact, and I'm going to try to clean it up as much as I can. But this is the truth of the matter. I'm laying there on a table. She does her deal, and I'm sitting there. She says, "The doctor's going to come in to see you." And I had a doctor that had a personality like dust. I mean, like, "Okay, Mr. Lasoski, we're going to go do this." And I said, "Well, what exactly are you doing?" He says, "Well, we're cutting you here, and we're taking them both out to examine them. And then we're taking the one and taking." I said, "Okay, well, when you get done, I want it." He goes, "What?" I goes, "Well, it's mine. I want it." Said, "What on God's name would you want that for?" I said, "Well, I'm going to have it freeze-dried, and I'm going to run a string through it and hang it on my buddy of mine named Guy Forbrook's mirror. When he gets back, he's going to have a memento of myself." "We can't do that. It's got to be sent in to be diagnosed." But when it was all said and done, it was there when I said, "I'm glad you took it because I don't want no part of it." But that is a fact. I was going to have it freeze-dried and put it on his mirror so he remembered me.
What would he have done?
I don't know. It would have been the funniest thing in the world.
He probably would have fell out of his chair. So hard.
That's brotherly love right there.
Oh, my God. So then the test came back not malignant. They got it in time.
They got it in time, and knock on wood, that was '94, and we're still here.
Yeah, you guys wanted to win plenty of races after that.
Yeah, knock on wood for the sprint car fans of America.
And again, I'll tell you how stupid I am. That was done on a Monday. I raced the following Saturday at Knoxville, and I took I'll never forget, I took a boat. My dad had an old boat trailer out back, and while he wasn't there, I dismounted the tire and took the inner tube out, and I cut it and hot glued. I folded the ends over and hot glued both ends, and I stuck the air chuck between my uniform, so when I got in the car, I aired it up, and it was here, so when I put the belts over, it didn't pull on my stomach.
Oh my God.
And I raced it that way.
But those are the stories, you look back on it now and you say, "God, I was so dumb to do that." But
dumb. You're not
then those are the stories the fans love to hear about. They love hearing about Dale Sr. going out there and racing with he cut the cast off because he couldn't shift, and he, just doing those little things like that. Those are the things that the fans love to hear.
It's fact. I mean, it's no gray area. There's some more dumb stuff I've done too. Believe me.
Well, let's hear all about those.
You don't want to hear about those.
I don't think we got enough time on the show to hear about those.
We're talking with the dude. Go ahead, Stan.
One of the first races I had the opportunity to announce, Outlaw races, and saw you guys. You had this group of fans, and they would show up, and they wore the hard hats.
That's
and the hard hats were painted in your
From
colors.
Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
We called them the dude heads.
That's right.
And they went absolutely crazy in the grandstand whenever you were out there on the racetrack.
They'd show up with the big cow horns on it. Yeah, absolutely. They still come today. They were there last night.
Why the hard hats?
Because they had hard hats with the horns on them to represent the Beef Packers car.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The old 83 car.
So now you're driving the number 2 GoMuddy.com for
Todd
Queering in the NSL. Talk about this NSL series. We've seen these series come and go periodically throughout the year.
Well, I think it's a breath of fresh air for every Midwest race car driver, especially a young guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm glad that Todd had this vision to bring 410 racing. You know, nothing against 360 racing, but they're racing for less money than we did 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted a concept to say, hey, let's bring back the Midwest, bring it to these venues that we normally don't get to go to bring it for the fans. And it's been phenomenal. The support we've had has been phenomenal. And we were lucky enough to win the championship.
Do you see this being a rival class to the World of Outlaws or an accent kind of working with the World of Outlaws?
So far, it's just been an accent. They've been working together so they don't race on the same night because that gyps the fans, and that's what it's not all about.
It does.
It's about bringing the best of the best to race against each other.
You know, and this is something I got to mention. When the last time the World of Outlaws visited I-80 Speedway, they had 3 heat races. They had a dash, they had a B main, and they had an A feature. And NSL members swept the program. And you had a spirited battle with Donnie Schatz for the last 5 laps. What a race for the fans, and you ended up coming out in victory lane, and that was a feather in the cap for the NSL, and really gave the series a lot of credibility.
This series is tough. You come here, you better be loaded for bear because there's some good racers in this thing.
A lot of good racers too, and now with the expansion to the 360 series, does that open up opportunities for you to kind of play a little bit more in the 360 engines, or are you going to stay strictly with 410s?
Well, I race my 360 programs with Mr. Mark Birch here from Lincoln, Nebraska, and we haven't really sit down and decided exactly what's going to go on because I don't think they've decided on what rules they got. So that's kind of open for us right now.
And I think one of the things about the 360 deal, you know, a lot of tracks, you know, maybe some of the smaller tracks or the smaller, you know, metro areas and stuff like that maybe don't have the affordability to bring you guys in. Let's face it, we like to get the purses up for the 410 division, you know, and that would still give them NSL caliber of competition and program, but maybe at a little bit slightly less expense than the actual 410 guys.
This subject's probably not one I need to talk about because I think the drivers need to be paid a lot of money. So,
well, sure.
And, you know, that's and I know but you're right, to be able these smaller venues to be able to afford to still get the caliber drivers. I understand you got to crawl before you walk.
Yep.
Well, but I mean, in every other form of entertainment, the top entertainers get their money. You know, they get paid. The NFL, the MLB, actors, writers, directors. You know, but drivers, you guys, it honestly baffles me how some of you guys keep doing it because you
don't you want to be a rock star?
Well, yeah.
Drivers are kind of like announcers, you know.
Exactly.
You know, but somebody says to me like, "Oh, you're into dirt racing. So do you drive?" And I said, "No, I like my money. I just announce. I call the place." So it's very tough right now, and I only see the solution as being someone like Todd, who I give him a lot of respect. He's gone out there and found a lot of really good sponsorships for you guys to be able to make the ends meet.
He's also took a lot of money out of his pocket, you know, so hats off to him for having the forethought and the vision to do this, and we really appreciate that.
Wrapping it up here with Danny Lisowski as a part of the Legends of the Dirt series. Danny, we on behalf of a lot of fans, thank you for everything you've done. You know, you just went out and put it in victory lane, but God, did you entertain millions throughout the years.
Well, thank you guys so much for having us on, and make sure that I get to come back and do your show again.
I think that's going to happen. We'll have to talk to you again at the beginning of the year before you kick off your 2016 season.
Thank you, guys. Have a good
Danny.
day.
Thank you,
Thanks, Danny.
We'll be back next weekend with another Legends of the Dirt series. This is The Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker quick to stake and lose.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100 plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.